unfortunately, Day Hollins will be out for the season with a lower body injury. We have 3 guys, Joshua Azudu, DJ Jones, and British Brooks, that'll be evaluated throughout the week to determine their availability for Saturday. And just because I know y'all will wonder, Storm Duck continues to practice, continues to do more during practice, so we hope he can get back as well. All right, we've got Coach Brown.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning, Coach.
Start with a few comments here before we can get to your questions. Much more fun to win than the other option, obviously. But we've got a lot of young players and newcomers, and what we're doing is we're really self-evaluating harshly every Sunday after the ball game. So we took Saturday night's game, even though it was a good win for us, and looked at every possible thing that we could do a better job of, like you do each week. But we've been really harsh. Sometimes after you win, you walk out with your chest stuck out and think, oh, that's good. And you're not as tough on yourself. So we've been really hard with evaluations. Offensive player of the game was Sam Howell, only the second time, along with Marquise Williams, that players had over 300 yards passing and over 100 yards rushing. So Sam looked like Sam on Saturday night and got back on track, and we protected him better, and he's doing a really good job with his legs of making plays, and really proud of his performance. Defensive player of the game, Miles Murphy. Miles had a sack, 2 tackles for loss, and 2 more tackles. So that's his best performance since he's been playing for us. And British Brooks was the special teams player of the game. He blocked a punt, and then he ran down the fake punt and was all over the place. So he continues to do a really good job for us. Offensively, we for parts of the third quarter where we scored 21 points, that's who we want to be. That's the best we've looked this year. We were able to run it and throw it, and successfully got a rhythm and started looking like the offense that we remember from last year. Antoine Greene made some tremendous catches. Hopefully this will give him the confidence to step up now, and along with Emery Simmons, take some pressure off of Josh Downs, because Josh just continues to play at a really high level, and he's going to start getting double teams unless the outside guys play. And the catches that Antoine made were great catches. They weren't good catches. Both the touchdown and the one where he turned around were outstanding catches. Proud for our tight ends that they had 7 catches, and our staff's getting the ball to them more. 4 different guys had 7 total catches. So that will help us and take some of the pressure off of the wide receivers as well. Joffrey made the great catch down in the end zone that was ruled out of bounds, but he also dropped the deep one, and we need Joffrey to come on and add to those numbers. But offensively, we felt like there were some times in the game that we looked at least like we did last year. Defensively, we forced 3 turnovers because we had the 1 interception, the 2 fourth down stops, and we count those as turnovers. We had 5 3 or 4 and outs, which were really good. We still got to create more sacks. We missed 7 tackles in space, and we're not getting the sacks that we need, even though they got the ball out of their hands quickly and we're more of an option team. But we've still got to improve in that area. Guys that played really well defensively were Ray Vahasek, Miles Murphy, as I mentioned, Kamen Rucker, all the inside linebackers, Kyler McMichael had by far his best game. So we're really, really excited about him. We also were able to play guys less plays. And we think that's something that will really help us moving forward with our program. Miles Murphy, Bahasic, and Ritzy only played 28, and 26 plays. Asante played 36 and Cedric Gray played 15. So they got to play. Cedric got to play more and did a good job while I was in there. And that'll help rest our linebackers. And then freshmen like Power Eccles and Ra Dilworth played 19 plays. So they played a lot at the end of the game. And I was proud of the defense that the first and second defense held Georgia State to a little over 100 yards in 3 quarters. And then our young ones gave up the big run by the quarterback at the end of the game, which we were disappointed in, but they've got to learn how to play. But we were able to get a lot more guys in the ball game, and that excited us moving forward. Awesome Richards and Jordan Tucker played well. Josh Downs played well. And I mentioned Antoine Greene. Also, Kamari Morales played by far his best game. So that was a real positive for us as well. We only had 1 penalty offensively. William Barnes was downfield on a pass. So we are starting to eliminate penalties. I think we had 3 for the game. Overall, you start looking at how hard it is to win. And you got to quit worrying about who's the best team. It's who's the best team on Saturday. Because every weekend now, and it seems like more and more, we see just shocking upsets. And you all saw them. I'm not going to go back over them, but it's real and it's here. So you can't worry about who you're playing. You better play good, and you got to play good every week to make sure that you get where you need to get. You just got to win, and winning's really, really important. As far as Virginia is concerned, and I am concerned about our injuries, but there's nothing we can do about it. It's our 3rd year. So we've got to start having guys ready to step up and play. I really hate it for Day Hollins. He's turned his life around. He's doing really well in school. He was becoming a legitimate corner for us where he could go in and play at any time. So I hate it for him. I hate it for us as a team, but I even hate it more for him because he's been so positive in everything he's done. Virginia's played really, really well. It's basically the same team that we've played for the last 2 years, with only the quarterback change from last year. Brennan Armstrong played against us last year and did a great job. And he's just a winner. He's tough. He's smart. He can throw the ball well in the pocket, but he can scramble and make plays down the field as well. They've got all 5 starters back from an offensive line that has 121 starts, and they rushed for 210 yards against us last year and held us to 210. So they were more physical than we were, and we had to battle just to hang in the game. And the game for the last 2 years has been good. It's come down to the last drive, and that's the type of rivalry that this is. Just looking at it, it's the South oldest rivalry. We've played Virginia 15 more times than anybody else in the ACC, and both went into the ACC in 1953. I'm not sure why they're not rated higher. They've outscored William and Mary in Illinois 85-14, and they've looked really, really good doing it. And it's the same team back from last year. So again, I think they should be rated higher than they are. Brennan Armstrong's completing 71% of his passes. He's got 7 touchdowns and passing and 2 rushing and 744 yards passing. And they've done a great job with the transfer portal. You start looking at the big tight end, Jelani Woods, 6'7", 270, and they hit him down the middle. And Thompson has been a tremendous player for him, coming from Mississippi State. They play him all over the place. He's played quarterback. He can play wide receiver. He's really a good player. Defensively, again, they held us to 93 yards last year. They had 5 sacks against us. We haven't done well against them in the red zone. We were 0 for 3 2 years ago and only 3 for 5 with touchdowns last year. And again, they've got Nick Mason, Taylor Blunt. They're big. They can run. They are a multiple defense because Broncos got an experienced staff and they do a tremendous job coaching. They get you in third down and long, which we've been in a whole lot. And they're very multiple and they give you a lot of problems. And they've got 7 starters returning on defense and 8 returning on offense. So it's an experienced team. We'll have our hands full. I did notice we were 9-4 at home after the weekend and lost to number 1 Clemson, lost to number 2 Notre Dame, lost to App State, and lost to Virginia. So those are the 4 games that we've lost at home in our 2 years and 1 game coming back. Questions?
Thanks, Coach. If you have a question, please use the raise hand button. And we will begin today with Mike Barber. Go ahead, Mike.
Morning, Mack. Greetings from Virginia. I'm curious, it's such an unusual schedule to have 2 division games in your first 3 weeks. I know it's 1 game at a time and all those kind of things, but do you warn the guys against putting too much pressure on themselves, or do you talk about how pivotal this game could be, even though it's week 3?
Mike, they know it. I mean, these are smart kids on these 2 teams. You don't have to, you have to tell them to take a deep breath and get ready to play. It'll be a great game, but I don't like opening up on the road with a conference game. I wouldn't have done that. That was obviously our league and TV. And especially at a tough place to play. I'd rather Virginia's such a rival game. I'd rather it be pushed back in the schedule because I think it builds up to that more than early. But nobody asked me, so I don't have any input whatsoever. I do feel like that after the opening ball game, we had to quit worry about rankings and we had to quit worry about conference and we had to play better and get back on track. So right now we've got enough issues. We're worried about us. We've got to figure out why we're inconsistent in the running game. We got to figure out why we still have sacks and we're still missing tackles and not getting sacks. So we've got a lot of things we've got to fix, Mike, that we can't worry about. Virginia's playing much better than we are. Thank you.
Andrew Jones. Excuse me, Andrew Jones, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, I think you sort of just hit on about what I'm going to ask you. You said that you had some really hard evaluations coming out of a game like this. The score may camouflage some things that didn't go very well. What were a couple of things that stood out that concern you from this game that were also an issue in the first game as well?
Andrew, we screwed up. We've got expectations entirely too high. When you win 59-17 and people are mad, things have moved on from 2 years ago where we won 2 games. So I do understand that without question. That the questions for me coming off at halftime are what's wrong, and we were up 24-10. I thought, what's wrong? I'm not sure. We got to look at it. So what we do is there was a stretch on offense in that third quarter. We scored 21 straight points and looked as good as we've looked since we've been here. So I'm really, really excited about that. The defense held them to 100-something yards. Only the one drive in the second quarter, the 75-yard drive, was a really nice drive by them. And I thought we played too many young guys and didn't substitute enough. We've got to be smart. We've got talented young guys, but you can't leave them out there forever. Let them play, let them grow up, and we'll start being able to play them more as the season goes on. But if they're moving the ball on you and those young guys are out there and they're getting a little bit winded, get them out. Get your starters back in the game and let them play. And then I thought our third quarter was the best quarter of football we've played this year. I still don't like the fact that we're not doing well on first downs. I checked it. We've thrown 34 or 32 times on first down, and we've run 32 times on first down. So we've been very, very balanced with our first down calls. But we're going back and looking at every call in the ball game. We're looking at every play in our 2 ball games. And if there is penetration, if there is a run that's less than 4 yards, why? Because a successful run is 4 yards. And we're going back and studying exactly why. We're looking at first down runs against our defense again, so you can try to get to a second long, a third and long. And then you're looking at I didn't mention the kicking game. I should have. We blocked a punt for the first time in 3 years. I thought that was against the rules, the NCAA rules, and we checked it and they said it was okay. So we actually blocked one, but we're not returning them. We still haven't had a punt return, and Josh Downs is a weapon. So we've got to do a better job, and it's basically because we're not holding up their gunners well. So that's a concern. I was really proud of the fact that Georgia State had a tremendous design on their fake punt. That sucker, a run and an option. That if our guys hadn't had speed and been aware, run it down, that would have been a first down, and they nearly made it anyway. So I was proud that we stopped the we stopped the fake punt. Our punter did a great job. He had a 53-yard punt. We covered it well, and they had to have a fair catch. And then even Cole Maynard, our freshman punter, got in to have a chance to do it. And Jonathan Kim kicked the ball over the goal line every time on kickoffs. We did miss a field goal. But so I think inconsistency on offense again, trying to get more pressure on the quarterback, even though there's got it out of his hands fast, still stopping the run on first down and making sure that they were making 4+ yards on first down. And the one issue of trying to return more punts are the things that we're looking at mostly.
You also mentioned the special teams after the game the other night, some areas that you're seeing improvement in. How much do you attribute this to the fact that the guys had time with Coach DeWitt and they're better understanding the terminology and the philosophy that he has for special teams, which might be a little different from what they had seen before?
Yeah, Andrew, I think it's three things. Number one, Coach DeWitt's really good. He's one of the best in the country at what he does. Number two, he has had a year to study our personnel and practice all of the kicking game full speed in spring practice. And we did that more than we've ever done it before. And then thirdly, we've got more players. We got more depth and faster players. So even some of the freshmen that are on kick teams will get better each week, but they're just so inexperienced. But we've got to start winning games on special teams. We're doing really well. And we've been better than the other two teams in our first two ball games. But let's go win a game. Blocking punts helps you win games. Return punts helps you win games. We had kickoff returns. There were some questions about that last week. When they're not going to be able to kick it out of the end zone, we will return. And especially if we think there's things there, and we had opportunities on kickoff returns that we didn't get accomplished because we messed it up. So it was good that we have got it on video now, and we've gotten some live work against an opponent so we can improve in that area as well.
Thank you.
Over to CL Brown.
Hi, Mack. How much does the success of Sam running the ball on Saturday added to the fact that the running game hasn't probably popped off like you would like it to so far? Does that lend to possibly giving Sam more opportunities, more called opportunities to run moving forward?
It does, CL. We even moved the quarterback some in the third quarter on bootlegs and naked plays and getting Sam on the corner, and that really helped us as well. But I do feel like that we need to get him to slide more. He still likes to be physical, and I want him to go down unless it's on the goal line or a fourth and short where he's got to make the line to gain. But I feel like that he's running so much better. Well, what a great run for the 60-something yard run for a touchdown. When I was screaming, get down, until he didn't, and then he scored. But he's a valuable runner for us. And that's obviously going to be a huge part of our running game this year because of the two guys we lost. And that's good, and that's okay. We had Vince Young and Colt McCoy both at Texas who were valuable runners for us and ran for a bunch of yards. And people gripe because traditionally we're supposed to have running backs making the yards and quarterbacks throwing the ball, and it doesn't matter. You got to win. And Sam now has become an outstanding runner, and that also should help his stock moving forward because he's He is not hesitant to take it down and run with it. We just want him to take care of himself.
And this next question, I promise I'm not trying to get you fined, but in these first two games.
But you are. Don't ever listen till somebody says but or however, and then you know they're going to give you the question. So I got to the but. So go ahead and get me fined.
These first two games, you guys have had some calls that have gone up to replay, and the call on the field ended up standing, even though from looking at it, my personal view, looking at it on TV replay, it seemed like the call should have been reversed a couple of times. I was just wondering if you were noticing any kind of trend, or if you feel any particular way about that in terms of it maybe even pressure on officials just to uphold, without some kind of substantial, egregious mistake being made on the field, that they're just going to stay with what's called on the field in normal time.
CL, I absolutely agree with you. And I think that it seems like that the call on the field is going to stand unless it's just so overwhelmingly obvious on TV that it was not. And that's why we're still leaning so much on the official's call that I wonder why do we have instant replay? I've always felt like we should have one of our strongest officials in the booth, and he should be evaluating the call, because all we want is the call to be right and to be fair to the kids on the field. And if we're going to lean so heavily on what is called on the field, then we're trusting the call on the field more than instant replay. Why waste all of our time with instant replay? And so I'm in total agreement with you. And I don't think that gets me fined, because I'm not questioning the call. I'm questioning our process. And I really feel like that's something that should be reevaluated nationally.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Greg Barnes, go ahead.
Hey, Mac, this offseason, Bronco Mendenhall said a couple times that he felt like his offense could be the best that he's had in Charlottesville. You touched on Virginia's experience and what they have coming back. Are there any other changes that you've seen for that offense for them to function as well as they have thus far?
Yeah, that big tight end. They've done a great job with the transfer portal. It hasn't been our deal, but each year, I think they brought in 9 guys this year, and you start bringing in tight ends that are 6'7", 270 that can run and catch. And he was a real factor last week in what I saw last night of their Illinois video. He's a huge presence. And Brennan's such a good quarterback that he's so accurate that you start getting that big target across the middle, it changes everything. So they bring in a huge target in Thompson. They bring in a huge target in Woods, and that makes a difference. And it changes their whole program. So they've done a good job. They've got a good team. All these guys are back from 2 years ago. But then you add guys each year, like these big, tall guys, and it sure makes a difference.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ross Martin.
Hey, Coach Brown, you said after the game on Saturday, you're going to be up all night trying to figure out, some of the issues with the offensive line and the run game. I was wondering, and you said you looked at all the tape today and every play. I was wondering, kind of what you see with the offensive line and some of the running issues and some of the pressure that the opposing defensive line is getting on y'all.
Yeah, Ross, I think we're unfair when we just say offensive line, because it may be blocking by receivers. It may be a tight end that let a guy get inside. It may be a running back that missed a cut. It may be that Sam took the wrong check. It may be that Sam held the ball too long. So it's so simple for us to say offensive line stunk. Those guys were bad. And then it's not always that. And you can't, I sit down with our offensive staff. I go over every negative play. And I want to see who is it and why is it. One thing Coach Bowden taught me, and he said, don't keep practicing bad stuff. So if something's not working, change it or throw it out. I mean, if maybe because the 2 backs left, we can't run this one play like we did last year. Maybe Javonte was just different, and Those guys had so many yards after contact last year. But the biggest thing is just keep looking at every little thing that you're doing. There's no question that the offensive line being banged up with Azudu and Brian Anderson has hurt us. That's our two best players up front. Brian's a quarterback. He runs everything, and he played the other day, but he didn't play as well because he'd been hurt. But we knew more what to do. I think that's the biggest thing is just going back and looking at it. Each year, you're a different team. You've got some different personalities. You've got some new players, and you've just got to continue to reevaluate and not make the same mistakes. And like I said, in the third quarter on Saturday night, offensively, scoring 21 straight points, that was the first time I felt good about our offense this year. And I actually felt confident that we were going forward and had some rhythm and we're all on the same page. And the other thing we felt, I kept Sam in one more series after the Power Eccles interception because I just wanted him to keep getting confidence and keep doing things. In retrospect, I probably should have put the young quarterbacks in because we needed them to play. And I wanted to get Drake to throw some, and he didn't get to. He only had the 3 plays at the end of the game. And the other thing that we've changed is when we put a young quarterback in, he's going to play. It'll be the regular offense, and we're going to throw it, and regardless of the score, because those 2 guys got to get ready to play. I've said I think we'll have a chance to be even a better team next year, but these 2 young quarterbacks are really special. But we've got to get them ready to go. So that'll be another thing we're looking at.
Adam Smith, go ahead.
Hey, Mac, wanted to ask you about Antoine Greene. With a guy like him who hasn't played a ton over the course of his career, and is somebody that you want to step up and need to step up, and you've told us what you all need him to do. How do you go about encouraging him, just you personally, or the coaches one-on-one? Like, is he a guy that needs to be loved up? How do you go about trying to get out of him what you need out of him in terms of the way you talk to him and encourage him?
Yeah, Adam, I guess he broke his leg before we got here. And then last year he had a really bad pull. So he's been hurt so much, and he hasn't been able to gain confidence because of his injuries. So Saturday night, I walked over and told him nobody will catch 2 better balls than those 2 that he caught. The one where he turned around is a really, really hard catch on the deep ball. And that was an outstanding catch in the end zone. Where he really had to reach out and dive for it. Those are big time catches. The other one was a really good catch as well. So I told him, you have officially grown up, man. You have shown tonight the kind of player you can be. So I said, I'm going to be on you every minute of every day moving forward for you to be this guy. This is who you are now. It's not the one we've seen in the past. And he had a big smile on his face. So I expect him to step up and be a big time player. We've been waiting on another receiver to step up. He did that Saturday night, and hopefully some of the other guys will do it as well. But I'm so proud of him, and we really need him right now. So I think this is his time, and that's what good programs do. When you lose a great player like Diami, somebody steps up. When you lose a great player like Daz, somebody steps up, and Josh has done that at slot. But we haven't done it outside yet. So now you've got Emory Simmons and Antoine that can play, and other guys. You need Chaffrey to come on, and he made the great catch, like we said, on the goal line, and then drops one right in his hand. So we need him to get the confidence, and we need both of those guys to keep coming for us to be the team we want to be.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adam.
All right, we'll close up with Coach Brown this morning with Mike Barber. Go ahead, Mike.
Hey, Mac, if I could sneak one more in. Bronco was pretty candid this week about throwing so much out there offensively to make it hard for the next opponent. How much time, is not wasted, but is spent on 4 different quarterbacks on the field and the pre-snap stuff? How much work is that, and how much does it take away from your focus?
Mike, they're very unique in their offense, and Coach and I has done a great job everywhere he's been. I remember him in the past. And we've played these guys at Brigham Young twice, and just watching them, they do a tremendous job, and they do a lot of stuff. I don't know how they practice it all. But again, we've got to be us. We've just got to go play. And if you spend all your time trying to chase the eye candy and all the stuff moving around, you're not going to do a very good job. So it still gets back to being sound, and what they've done for the last 2 years been more physical than we were last year, for sure. And I think it's more about how you play than all of the things that you're doing. So you just got to play. Still got to block and tackle. You still got to find the guy that's got the ball in space and make sure you make tackles. Like I said, they've done a great job of utilizing their personnel on both sides of the ball. And they've done a great job with the portal. They've just found guys that are really good for their program, and they bring them in and they play and they fit. And I don't know how you do that. You know, that hadn't been my deal. So I'm not very good at the transfer portal. But they've really utilized it well. And Bronco's a good person. He goes by the rules. They work hard. His teams play hard. He brings in nice kids. They're smart. So they're a team that you enjoy playing because you know he's going to go by all the rules, and he's going to have good kids, and they're going to play hard. And when you play his teams, you better be ready to go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Coach. We appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you, guys and ladies. Good morning. Mark, the other thing I'll say, and I don't know if I said this or not, Virginia should be rated higher than they are. They should be rated higher than we are. I mean, they've dominated 2 games. So I don't know what people are missing there, but it's I don't think they're being fair to them.
Thanks, Coach. All right, Mark, we got Coach Longo coming in.
All right.
Good morning.
Morning, Coach.
How are you guys doing today?
Doing well, thank you. Hope you are. We will begin with Andrew Jones. Go ahead, Andrew.
Hey, Coach, Mack was just talking about some of the things about the running game and about the use of Sam. Aside from the use of Sam, what are some of the things that have concerned you about the more conventional element of your run game through 2 games?
Well, I think initially we are dealing with some continuity issues. I think we've had Brian Anderson injured for the first 2 games. He played in this last one. Wasn't at 100%, but he played. And then he didn't play in the beginning. He didn't play in the opener against VTech. So that has been probably the biggest obstacle, Andrew, to overcome, I think. Week 1, it kind of led to some communication issues. We had a lot more continuity from a communication standpoint, without question, this last game. I think Q got better in the week that since he played at Virginia Tech, and I think Brian added to that because it's what he does so well. And then, obviously this game we had Easy out, so Azudu was out. So we really haven't had our 5 starters yet. And I think, so we're calling on Ed Montillas and Q to play a bunch more. Wayne Barnes played a little bit in the last game. And so that we're just still searching for that comfort level, that rhythm that we got into last year. And I think that's a big part of it. And then, truthfully, and this is no slight on anybody that we have right now, but, the Michael and Javante were 2 of the best at the point of attack last year, when we were blessed to have 2 guys like that. And so now we have a very young backfield and with 1 veteran, and that veteran starting for us, but it's still new in this offense. And so those guys are starting to feel the system, and they're starting to get in a little bit of a rhythm. But I think those 2 things are probably the 2 things that are probably stealing from us a little bit from a continuity standpoint up front.
I watched the replay of the game and Sam's 62-yard touchdown run, and Nick Polino turned to you and you gave a fist pump. Was that something you kind of thought at some point you might see from Sam? Just the way that he's changed his body and stuff.
I've really been proud of Sam with regards to how hard he's trained in the off season. The change in his body and in his explosiveness and in his change of direction and just all of that stuff that lends to his athleticism on the field. I mean, he was a very gifted runner. He was a very successful runner in high school. And I think when he first got here that first year, he tried to pull some of that off at Miami and South Carolina, and he took some hellacious hits. I see Ross smiling, so he must remember some of those hits. But he learned quickly that it wasn't going to be as easy at this level. And so in order to maintain being a run threat, he's worked really hard in the offseason, both off seasons, to improve his overall athleticism on the field. And Hess and those guys have done a good job, and he's been committed training. And you see the difference in both games so far. He's much more decisive about when he's going to run. He's getting through pass progression, and he's out, and he's attacking grass now. We pull on an RPO and it's not there. He's attacking grass now. And then on any of the runs where, the QB is involved in the pull or the potential run in itself, he's doing a great job of beating the line of scrimmage, as we say, and after that, you really don't want to have to coach a guy beyond the line of scrimmage. And he's been much more prolific, I think, in that aspect of the game. That's probably been his single best or most improved area athletically is his run ability off of all three phases of our game.
Thank you.
Greg Barnes, go ahead.
Hey, Phil, is it surprising and or concerning that you are having some of the continuity issues up front, given that, this is an experienced group that's played together for the most part for 3 years, that even though you've got one guy that goes out, that you don't have a simple, somebody else steps up and fills that role?
So I think we all hope that when you have a full veteran returning offensive line, that continuity would not be an issue. Now we've kind of stirred that up a little bit with the two injuries, our starting center and our best offensive lineman in Easy, but we do have some depth, and we do have some guys that we can plug in and go. And so I think with the as we progress through each game, I think our offensive line is going to improve with each week, and we really needed to start off at a better rate on game one because we needed to be able to lean on those guys in the opener. But I think we're going to get better each week. I think our guys will continue to improve. I think you'll see more and more continuity up front. And I think you'll see our running backs get into a little bit more of a rhythm. So, you just want to see that process, Greg, happen faster, right? Because when it doesn't happen, it costs you plays and potentially games. So that's something that we're emphasizing, and we'll emphasize again this week. And that's got to come along for us to have success on offense the way we expect it.
Thank you.
Mike Barber, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, they've played a lot more true 3-3-5, only with the three linebackers on the field. A year ago, a lot of their pressure came from the four linebacker spots. What do you see in what they're doing, and what do you see in terms of their getting or not getting pressure on opposing quarterbacks early on?
So I heard the tail end of Coach Brown's remarks about UVA, and I would mirror those. I think that they did a really good job of identifying what the weaknesses were of their defensive scheme last year. It's obvious that they did a very intensive study with regards to what they gave up, because they're doing a very good job in the first two games of not giving that stuff up to offenses now. They've done a really good job from a staff standpoint, I think, schematically, of taking away the things that people were picking on them for last year. Where people had success last year, they're doing some different things. And I'm not sure, I don't know, I'm not on their staff, so I don't know their personnel situation. But typically with that kind of approach with the three down and you're more safety laden or safety heavy, you typically have better personnel at that position, and I would guess, and this is strictly a guess on my part, but I would guess that they are much more talented maybe in the safety room in the defensive backs room right now than they maybe with regards to in comparison to the depth that they have on the D line. And so their approach right now is not only handling, answering some of the weaknesses that they had last year, but it's also probably playing towards their strength. We think they're very gifted at safety. They're very gifted at nickel. Their star safety, which is their middle safety, number 29, is a very, very good football player. And so they've got a lot of really good athletes that can close ground and, and make plays in the open field. They tackle well in the open field. So to me, they have improved their defense schematically. And I think they're playing to their strengths personnel wise.
Thank you.
CL Brown, go ahead.
All right, Phil, we saw Antoine Greene obviously have a breakout performance on Saturday. What do you feel like it's going to take to get Charfy Brown kind of in the same kind of a flow? Obviously, last year he had a big catch and score against Virginia. When can we kind of expect those things again?
So, with regards to AG, and I told y'all before, recruited him for a long time, very heavily at Ole Miss, and was elated when I got here and he was on the roster. So I've always thought very highly of his upside and what his potential was. And I thought this last game gave him an opportunity because we got him some targets. And I think the more we target him, the more he'll heat up. And I think he's going to be a guy we can depend on this year. And then with Charfy, a lot of it is last year he was, like they say in basketball, he was that sixth guy off the bench. You know what I mean? He came in, he made some plays, he played more sporadically. He's going to be more of an every down player, an all drive player this year, switching it off with Emory and with AG. And I think the more he plays, the better he'll get. He didn't make the catch on a walk-in touchdown opportunity last weekend. But those are plays that we know he can make. Those are plays we think he will make. And I think the biggest key is just to keep him out there and keep playing him. And I think that's the most important part of this thing for Charfy.
And I think the play before he caught, or it might even been a series before, I can't remember now. He caught the touchdown. I got waved off. At one point when he was coming off the field, I think I saw he seemed almost exasperated, like maybe he felt he was open or something. I don't know what the situation was, but just from a mental standpoint for a kid like that, how do you kind of keep him, he's going to get going, but how do you kind of keep him mentally in the game up until he reaches that point?
So not to disagree with you, CL, but I really don't remember any frustration with Charfy. I mean, Charfy's probably about as positive and as happy-go-lucky and as upbeat a guy as we have in that room. I think he's dying to make plays. I've never known him to be one that gets frustrated or, if anything, he was frustrated over his drop because he knew he had a walk-in touchdown and he let it go. But from an attitude standpoint and a personality standpoint, I think he's been fantastic. And I think it's just a matter of time before we get him going. The focus for Charfy is just that. We got to keep him focused in on every play so he's doing a good job at his position away from when he's getting targets. Blocking and complementary routes and the RPOs and some of the things that are in his job description with regards to our offense away from when we're throwing the ball. But from an approach standpoint and an attitude standpoint, I think he's about as positive as anybody in the room. So I think he just wants to make plays. He made a great catch in the end zone there that I still think is a touchdown, but they didn't give it to him, and we lined it up and got it in a different way and came back to Charfy a little bit later on. And, we're going to keep doing that because we think he can make plays for us.
Thanks, Coach.
Over to Gregory Hall.
Phil, obviously having Easy out and Brian Anderson, 2 separate games doesn't help. But I'm just curious, what are the specific mistakes that you're seeing, whether it's a tight end missing a block, just missed assignments, defensive line getting through when they shouldn't? Just what are you seeing on film from the offensive line and the running game that's kind of causing some of the lower yards per carry?
Well, the improvement from game 1 to game 2 was, it was very noticeable. I mean, we did a better job of blocking at the second level. There were no communication issues. There was a lot more continuity. And I think that we'll play even better this week up front in game 3. just because we're progressing. Some of the issues in game one were erased in game two. And in game two now, I mean, we had an opportunity to break some tackles and we didn't. We had an opportunity to hit some holes a little bit differently, and some of them we did and some of them we didn't. I thought the Tide did a really good job on our stretch play to open the second half. We hit it a little bit faster and a little bit more aggressively. And I thought we settled down in the second half, and I was much happier with where we were up front in the second half than I was in the first half. And this whole thing, not to be too vague about it, but it really is, it's five guys on the same page doing the same thing over and over and over. And we're not overly extensive in the run game. And that's so that we can be aggressive and we can keep it simple so we can play, downfield and play physically. And I think as we keep playing, that'll get better for us.
And then I wanted to ask about a few of the ineligible receiver downfield. How is that something that you can solve with Sam getting more active in the run game? Is that just something the linemen need to get used to as far as Sam might actually take off, or just how do you solve those? Because I feel like I haven't seen this many before with y'all's offense.
So I don't know offhand, Greg, how many have we had this year?
At least 3, I believe.
Yeah, so we've had either 2 or 3 in the last 2 years. It really hasn't been an issue. And I always tell Coach, I said, I'll take 3 a year if you compare it to all the yardage we make and all the production we have and all the explosive plays we have with regards to the RPOs. Those penalties are non-issue. But I think to have 3 in 2 games are Virginia Tech specifically. It was 2 communication issues that got linemen down the field. Otherwise, we would not have had any. So we had 2 calls that were different from what we were doing, and we had linemen down the field. This one at Georgia State was, I think it was William Barnes got down the field on a complete pass protection call. There was no run called at all. It really just was William didn't do a good job of holding the line of scrimmage in a pass protection that we ran, which is really obscure. It doesn't happen very much. And he said he just kind of lost place to where he was. And before you knew it, he was down the field, which is not something that happens very often. I can't remember the last time that happened on a pass pro. So I think that seems like it's more of an issue than it really is. And it's not really a concern of mine at all.
Thank you.
All right, last one for Coach Longo will come from Ross Martin.
Hey, Coach Longo. I thought Kamari Morales had a pretty good game. I think he was the second leading receiver. Just wondering if you kind of speak to maybe his emergence, what he can bring to your offense as kind of a second tight end there for y'all.
So Kamari is I love Kamari. I mean, Kamari, what you love about a guy like Kamari Morales is he loves the game of football, right? And so he has inherently he's talented. He has some talent and he can do some things. And blocking in the box for a guy like Kamari is all about want to. I mean, if he wants to be good in the box, he can be. And he puts that kind of effort into his run blocking. And I think he knows it's as important as what he does out in the open field. So we have been very happy with his progress in the box the last 2 years. You're going to see him on the field a bunch this year. We're going to utilize him because he's earned the right to be on the field. And then athletically, he does a really good job after he catches the ball well. He runs good routes, and I think he's athletic enough to, you saw he made somebody miss on 2 different occasions. I think he gets vertical really quick. I think he can accelerate quickly, and our quarterbacks feel comfortable throwing to him. And so, it's nice to have Garrett Walston now and Kamari Morales, where you can use the 2 of them and keep the 2 of them fresh. And that's why I told you going into the season, I felt like we're happy because we're a lot deeper in the tight end room maybe than we were, the first 2 seasons that we were here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Coach, for a few minutes this morning.
All right, you got it. Have a good week, fellas.
Mark, I'm gonna go track down Jay.
All right. Hey, Coach.
How we doing?
Doing well, thank you. Hope you are.
Great.
We'll begin with Mike Barber. Go ahead, Mike.
Hey, Coach, greetings from back home in Richmond.
Always good to hear from the homeland, Mike.
Absolutely. Hey, I wanted to ask, Mack mentioned a few times in his comments about feeling like Virginia had essentially out-toughed you guys in previous meetings. As a coach, how do you translate that message into practice? Do you challenge the guys, or how do you use that kind of opinion there?
Yeah, I mean, we're first of all, we're watching the film from last year, right? And they blocked us, and so I think and I got a lot of respect for Coach Mendenhall and his staff, but this game eventually always comes down to one, like whipping blocks, right? Like you either get blocked, you don't, or you get off blocks, and so they did a good job last year with giving us some different stuff. They're really creative on offense, and we've got to give our kids the best chance to get lined up and be physical and not be worried about other things, but they, yeah, I mean, I think that's going to be, I think when we're done Saturday night, the team that wins is the team usually that blocks and tackles best.
And along those lines, Bronco was pretty candid this week that with a developmental program that he tries to put a lot of stuff on video for opposing defensive coaches, basically to essentially waste some of your time this week working on a lot of different things. What is the challenge of picking what to work on?
So I think what you try to do is you try to look at, say, okay, we've had problems with these things before on defense, and how does that fit with how they attack us? You try to self-scout yourself a little bit. And then I think, obviously it's going to make you have to try to do less things, right? So and I think that's what they do is they force people to start, you look at Illinois, and Illinois quickly got into one call, and now, most, they got, Virginia's got really good players. They know exactly what call you're in. They can run really good plays. So I think that's going to be a part of it too.
Great. Thanks, Coach.
Yes, sir.
Andrew Jones, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, when we talked to Miles Murphy during fall camp, he told us that he's increased his squat by almost 200 pounds from last year. Through 2 games, have you seen a difference in him in that he's been able to increase the squat? And what did you see from him the other night that was different from a year ago that made him so effective?
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know the exact numbers, Andrew, but he weighs about the same that he weighed when he got here. Right. Like he's like 295 to 300, depending on what we had for lunch today. Right. So, but I think, his bench press has gone up 200 pounds and his squat's gone up 200 pounds, and I think that's a tribute to, Brian Hess and Dean and AJ and, Big John down in the weight room and the work Miles has put in. He's totally changed his body. So I think what we see with him now is a couple of things. Right. Number one, he's worked really, really hard to learn the defense and not make, last year we put Miles in him, we were rolling the dice sometimes, right? Whether he was going to quite do what we want him to do. Now I feel very confident in him, and he's become one of our better players. So I see a kid who I think has got a really bright future, who's playing really well for us, and and I think is getting to a situation where we can play him more and more every week, and I think you'll start to see that too.
Cedric Gray got in a couple series in the first half the other night. What did you like that you saw from him?
I think Cedric's a really good player. We wanted to play him against Virginia Tech more, and just the way the game kind of settled down. But I think he's, the thing about Cedric is, when you look at our linebacker room, and I think we've done a really, Tommy's done a good job with those guys, recruiting them, and they're all pretty similar, right? They all look the same. They're all really fast. They're all about 220 pounds, right? That's kind of who we want. But Cedric is the one kid who's longer. He looks like he could play for Javon. And so I think what's said in there, it gives us a little bit bigger body in there some. And I think you're going to see him play more and more every week, to be honest with you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, over to Greg Barnes.
Good morning, Jay. Bronco said a few times this offseason he thought this offense of his could be the best that he's had in Charlottesville. I know they got a lot of guys coming back, but has that offense changed much from what you've seen the first 2 games, or are they just doing what they know how to do?
Yeah, so I think they're throwing it better for sure. I think they're a little more talented outside, at receiver than I remember them. The tight end, the transfer tight end, I think is a really, really good player. But I think on offense, when you got a veteran O-line that's physical and does a good job, and I think they do, and then you got a quarterback who I think is a tremendous player, who can do everything. I think that's a pretty good way to start, right? And then I think they run a lot of crazy stuff, Greg. So I think they I think they got a good plan. And we're gonna have to play really, really well to have a chance.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, CL Brown, go ahead.
Hey, Jay, in these first two games, you guys have played a lot of players in the depth chart, and I was wondering if just how you've evaluated that so far, if you feel like that you've been able to get into a rhythm kind of in terms of the situations that you put them in, whether you're having somebody kind of specialize in that kind of stuff, or is that still something that you and the staff are still kind of working out?
That's a great question. I mean, so we absolutely have some kids that have fallen into a role of being a special situation guy, like on Saturday, we put it in the summer with the thought that we'd have three corners out there. And then, Storm's been a little banged up, but, with 6 DBs on the field, that was kind of something we felt like last year we didn't have enough of. So, and I think they converted one time on us. So that's pretty good. Clyde Pender is going in on third downs as a pass rush guy and doing a good job. So, I think there's a lot of guys, and frankly, I think Cedric Gray is in that mix a little bit too. Like we're bringing Cedric in to run some calls that maybe he's better at than Eugene, or vice versa. So there's definitely some kids that have fell into a role where they're more specialized. But honestly, I think we tell our kids, hey, if you show us that you can play with great effort and you know what you're doing, and there's not much of a difference between 1 and 2, we're going to play you. And I think what happens is, your morale's better. Coach Brown says all the time, right? Your morale starts from the bottom up, right? It's easy for Jeremiah Gemmell to have great morale. I think when the backup Mike's playing and the backup Will's playing and the backup Bandit safety's playing, I think you start to get more of a buy-in from and you create more, depth in your defense. So, I think the biggest place we're playing more is D-line. And I think that, that's a position you have to play as many players as you can, I think, just because of the physical nature of the position. So I think it's a little bit of both, but I'm very happy that we're able to play more guys for sure.
Thank you.
Ross Martin, go ahead.
Hey, Coach Bateman, got some defensive back questions for you. Obviously, Day Holland's out for the season. Can you comment to kind of what that means for your defense and the depth of that cornerback room and him as a person?
Yeah, it's you hate to see a kid get hurt, but that's a kid who I got a lot of. Man, I love that kid. When the improvement he's made, he has really become a good player and a great teammate. He's smart. So losing him hurts. At corner, we feel like we've got depth. I do think Storm's getting close to being back. It wouldn't shock me if he's ready to play Saturday. So, I think Obi Egbuna has played really well when we've asked him to play. So I think losing Dede hurts because he's a good player, but I don't know how much that's going to affect our depth as much. It'll probably, hopefully, Obi and Storm will be able to take some of those reps that Dede was taking.
And it seems like Kylie Michael's playing really well, especially tackling TFLs. What have you seen from him? Maybe an improvement from last season to this season?
I think he's more comfortable with the defense. Last year, you got to think about, like, this is a kid who's a really highly recruited kid, and then he transfers and has to sit out. Then he doesn't have spring practice. So like there was a stretch there where he didn't really get to play much, So, and I really felt like at the end of the season he was playing at a high level. So, I agree with you. I think Kyler is playing really well, and he's a guy we can lean on.
And Ja'Coris Conley came back with the cast on his left hand. He came back and played. So, how does that affect him? Have you had a player play with that kind of cast injury at safety, where I guess using your hands and tackling is pretty important?
Yeah, he obviously did it early in the game, and he came back, and Luke and our trainer, Luke Ross, our trainers, did a great job getting him kind of up to speed. And I said, look, I'm going to put you back in, even though the game was out of hand a little bit. I said, I want you to get used to playing with it a little bit and see what you think. And he's got to use it a little bit better. But I also think, I don't know if he'll be quite as clubbed up as he was during the game for this next one. So I think he'll be able to use it a little more than he could, during the game. But, obviously, the further back from the ball you get, the harder it is to play with a club. It's hard to play defense with only one hand anyway. So, he's going to have to, change some things, but he's still a really good player, and we're pretty confident he'll be able to get it done.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Gregory Hall.
AJ, with the emphasis that y'all put on pass rush, are you disappointed with the, I guess, lack of through 2 games, or what do you want to see out of that for guys to get into the backfield more often?
Greg, not really. With Virginia Tech, we knew early on we didn't pressure much. Because we kind of wanted to see kind of how that game was going to play out. I felt like a year ago when we pressured him, he got out on us a lot, and I felt like he was more dangerous at that than he was throwing it, and he still got out on us. So I probably should have pressured. But and then against Georgia State, with what they were doing on offense, we didn't rush guys much. It was just kind of with the nature of what they were doing, and honestly, we felt like we could cover them. We felt like coverage was the answer a little bit. So we didn't create a lot, and also I think you watch Georgia State, the ball was coming out fast a lot. So I think that's that. But I think, we have some guys that can rush the passer that I think as we start playing teams that give us more and more opportunities to do that, I think you'll start to see more pressure.
All right. Our last question for Coach will come from Adam Smith.
The
Hey,
best
Jay.
for last. Save the best for last, Adam.
You're so flattering. I love it. You're talking about Virginia maybe being a little more talented at wideout, and maybe being a little more talented at tight end. What have you seen from the quarterback position with Brennan Armstrong? Like, he obviously gave you guys fits last year. He's on fire right now. Have you seen, through 2 games, has he added more to his game from what you remember from last season?
So, I was watching the game, their Illinois game before our game on Saturday, and Coach Mendenhall, they had an interview with him, and he said this, and this is kind of what I've thought about him for a year now. It's like, I think probably growing up when you played pickup basketball or backyard football or whatever sport you wanted to play, right? Probably if you picked him, your team was going to win, right? I think he's kind of that kind of guy. So, I think he's a really competitive kid. I think he does everything really well. The thing I see from him now versus when we played him a year ago is I do feel like he's got a really complete grasp of where the ball should go in the throw game. Where I felt like last year there were a couple of times that the coverage, we were able to kind of tilt the coverage a little bit, and maybe he didn't see it as much as he does now. So I think there's that. But look, he's a tremendous player. They do a great. They run him, they throw it to him. They do a lot with him, and he. I don't know. I don't think if he got hurt, they can't replace him. He's that kind of guy, So, we're gonna have to do a really good job of trying to create pressure on him with as few players as possible, and try to find a way to confuse him a little bit. But I think he's a tremendous player. I think when my first year here, we played him, and they had Perkins, who was a really good player. I think that they're getting all the same run. Strengths from the quarterback but the throw game is so much better. So, I think they got a really good offense.
Thank you, man.
Yep.
All right, Coach, thanks for a few minutes this morning.
No problem. Thanks a lot.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us today. We will catch you tomorrow at 5 o'clock with player availability.